Welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen. It's really two programs in one. This is a series that appeals to your creative side. Food that is sumptuous stuff. How could that be? This is a program about people who want to eat healthy and reduce calories. Actually, it's about food with an aromatic quality that fills the nose. Oh, sure, but it's also about keeping my arteries clean by reducing fat. But it doesn't mean a thing if the food isn't rich and colorful. Maximize the flavor. Okay, but I must have healthy food that I can cook in minutes. I must minimize the risk. So welcome to Graham Kerr's Kitchen, where we get our heads together just for you. By the way, it's also a program about having fun. That's still the best ingredient of all. This is going to be the first part, what I call now the wraparound. This is the little technique, and we wrap a little recipe around for you. So there's just not technique on its own. And then we'll springboard back into the kitchen again and do the main dish. And main dish will be what we call the springboard, where you dive into something with a new idea and change it all up. It's great fun. Okay, now this time we're going to have a look at something called pop. And pop, actually, the best way I can describe this to you, my wife Trina goes for runs and, well, walks in the morning. And when she walks, she sprays herself with Fenday. That's her stuff. You know, well, I buy it for her. That, you know, good husband stuff. And when you pass her by, you would expect perspiration from somebody running. But in Trina's case, you get this perfume which trails behind her. Well, it's much the same when it comes to good food, because you see, if you've got an ordinary piece of food on a plate, like so, it should have an aroma zone between there and your nose. We'll put your nose at that place there. And all of this should be filled up with aroma, and I call that literally the aroma zone. And there is an idea which actually started in India, called garam masala, which is sprinkled on top of food at the very last moment. And boy, is that aroma zone. So I'm going to take that idea and adapt that to our kind of food that we enjoy together, especially to replace some of the loss that you get when you get the fat out. Ready? Okay, come on, let's have a go. Get that down just for a moment. I've got something to show you in here just to start off with, and I want to make sure you get it. So this is a great budget show. This is, you know, here's my supplementary lighting. Do you see on the bottom of the pan there lots of little bubbles, right? And they're just about breaking onto the surface, little bubbles on the surface. Well, I had a copper bowl on top of that. I wanted to get that to exactly the right temperature, because if it gets to be too hot, then the whole thing can get ruined. And so I just wanted to show that. Now, what you put in there is half a cup of brown sugar. And I use brown sugar because everything, frankly, where you get fat out, when fat carries flavor. So if you get the fat out, you've got to get everything you can find to get more flavor in. And brown sugar is just a little more molasses flavor to it than white sugar. Okay, now here, instead of using the whole eggs, this is an egg substitute. And just 1 cup, and they come in convenient containers to make it 1 cup. And if you've never tried it, please try it on this one recipe, okay? Any of them should do, but in this particular case, this one works very well. Just take that half cup of sugar and 1 cup of egg, and if you see what's happening now, you have actually got a froth building up. This beater has got separate wires which aren't attached at the top, which means that those will flex backwards and forwards and give you more froth. Now, you see, this is doing quite well. It's hot, but the copper is also reacting to the egg white, because the egg substitute is largely egg white. Okay, good. So that's fine. After you've done that a little bit, just move the sugar and that together and just keep a watching brief on it. Make sure that spouts of steam don't start coming out from the side. That'll be a sure indicator. Okay, here I've got some 2% milk, and it's just sort of staining a little bit on the surface, but that's fine. And I want to bring that onto the heat, and this little thing here, if you've ever had a boil over, it's probably worthwhile getting. It just traps the air and that is rising off the bottom of the pan, and spreads it out through a little indentation there so that it shouldn't actually come to the boil. Now let's see it all boil all over the stove. All right, so that's going well. Into that, I just want to add two things. First of all, 1 teaspoonful of vanilla. And most important, check the label on vanilla. It's not for fat this time, or sodium or anything else, but for real. Please, I beg you, use the real stuff, not the imitation vanilla. Right, that's in. And then the other thing is just a little bit of, here, 2 tablespoons full of cornstarch, and mixed with just 2 ounces of the 2% milk. So 2. That's quite an easy thing to remember. Don't forget, as always, I'm going to tell you the amounts. You write them down, and if you miss it, there's the book, in place. All right, there we go. Now, this is just about, I can see little bubbles forming there, and it doesn't matter that you've got the little disc in the bottom, it'll work. Just bring it to the side, and just pour that cornstarch into the milk, and give it a good whip round, and then put it back on the stove again. All right? Now watch it, because again, you don't want it to boil over. Now, see how well this is going. This is already beaten up. What it is, the egg white itself is frothing with the heat and the sugar, and each little bubble is now holding a little sweet surprise in itself, all ready for the dish. Good. So that's going well, and that's going well. Good. Now, here is a Granny Smith apple. And the Granny Smith apple, actually, with the skin off, so that you can see how green it looks, came together in Ryde, near a place which I used to live in at one stage in my life. Ooh, here it is, right in front of my nose. In New South Wales, in Australia. And she actually, as the story goes, got some French crabapple bits of mush in the bottom of a box that she'd brought back from market, and she threw it all out into a compost heap with some of the seeds from her own apples, and the 2 germinated in the compost heap, and up out of this compost heap came this bright, beautiful green apple tree. And they munched on it. This is sensational, and took it off to a wonderful man called Small, who's well known for great apples. Over there, and this was about in the 1820 odd. So I mean, it's been a long time. It's now one of the primary apples in the whole world. Isn't that an amazing story? I knew you'd like that. Okay, so that's now completely ready to use, and this one is coming up nicely. Now, how to cook the apple? By the way, if you're ever going to cook apples or prepare them ahead of time, just a little bit of lemon in the bowl. I'm sure you know this, but a little bit of lemon in the bowl. Just an old squeezed out piece of lemon will do. And that keeps them from browning to some extent, but not completely, as you can see. Into a saucepan. And then on top of that, just 2 apples for 4 people. Take 2 cups of unsweetened apple juice. All right? And just thin it down a little bit so you can get it all underneath the surface. And just 1 cup of water. And put that on a simmer just for 5 minutes. And after they've simmered for 5 minutes, they'll look just like they do there. So just get those out and pop those onto a plate just to sort of dry out for a moment. I don't want to have too much liquid sort of hanging into the dish. And then, if you can find them, and I think they're around by now, and that is, these are black cherries, but they're frozen black cherries. They're really one of the better frozen fruits. Just drop those into this juice and just heat those through. Good. Now for the big issue, and this is the little mill and what we call pop. Pop, in this case, are these warming spices. Now, I'm taking 3 cloves. These are the cloves from Zanzibar. Nice little aromatic heads to them. Make sure they've got the heads in place. Some of them have knocked off, so you need all of that. A little piece, about 1/2 inch of cinnamon. And when you actually take a cinnamon stick like this one and start using the whole spices, it's amazing how much flavor you get from that. And then I take a piece of the nutmeg and then grind that or flake that in this sort of little nutmeg grinder and slicer. And so that makes it very fresh, and put that down on top as well. And you can't throw the nutmeg into this. It just doesn't work very well. So then it's something like a little coffee mill, right? And then start whizzing it up. Now, I need to beat this at the same time, get that going. And I need to... That's going nicely. This is the cornstarch thing. Oh, my goodness. The cornstarch thing has to actually cook for 30 seconds to cook the cornstarch taste out of it. And this is doing just fine. And that takes about 30 seconds also to be able to do here. Good. I'm sure you'll be able to manage that just like that. All right. Then take this thickened milk with the vanilla in and pour that then into the beaten egg substitute with the sugar. Now you've got the caramel of the sugar, and just look what's happening. It thickens up just as you look at it. See how beautifully soft and wonderful that is? That is perfection. Draw it from the side of the pan so that it doesn't boil too much. Okay, now, plate. And take these, just a couple of pieces for each one, and they should be just done, not overdone. Right? Then, to take a little of that, it's like a sabayon, it's like a zabaglione, and and you can pile this on. I mean, really pile it on, and then one or two of these little black cherries. About 4 of them, actually. Should be 3 or 4. So having dropped one off, it's obviously obligatory then to have 3. And then here is the technique. Here's perfume for the palate, all right? Pop, all right? Straight over the top, perfume for the palate. And just when you do that, everything is gorgeous, and then boom! It just, it's a knockout. All right. Come on, let's have a look at the numbers. Just that smell is amazing. Great. Okay, well, I think it looks good too, doesn't it? And so we did actually get to the nose and this apex with the aroma zone, and that's what POP, Perfume for the Palate, is all about. Okay, now let's have a look and see. As always, I'm going to compare this with a classic. The classic that I compared this with this time is just stewed apples with a good, rich egg custard, and probably one that you like. Here we go. This 335 calories means we don't drop many calories because it's so sweet. You could, by the way, reduce the brown sugar by 50% to only 2 ounces and get a huge drop in calories there. Okay, fat, 34. Down to 3 grams of fat, of which only 1 is saturated, which is great. So the original is 80% of calories from fat, and this is only 8%. So it makes it a staggeringly good dessert. And then cholesterol, 120, whistles down to 8. Sodium is up a bit with 90 and 94 because of the egg substitute. And dietary fiber climbs up into number 3 as a result. So, time I love the most. So it should be nice. The apple should be nice and crisp. It should not soggy, just really nice. And then, oh, I can't tell you how important it is to have that little aroma zone coming off the plate. Not only is it for the aroma, the taste is exquisite at the same time. Okay, next time you slosh up a custard, you think of doing that at the same time, all right? Now, springboarding. This is what we want to do. Always be sure you springboard. In my case, this time, I'm going to take a chicken soup with rice, which is called a mulligatawny, and it's from years and years and years ago, which came from India to Scotland and then into England. And it's delicious stuff, just great for a nice warm, or cold evening. Okay, come through and I'll show you how it's made. Something I really wanted to show you before I sort of finish that first one was that you can take the juice from the apple and the cherries and throw a couple of cloves into it, a bit of cinnamon, like that, just simmer it for a little while. And you have the most delightful, drink. It's really terrific. And keep that in the fridge, Keeps well, no problem. All right, well, let's have a look. See, you remember the technique, which is basically the pop, you know, the whole business of the garam masala. Well, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a half teaspoonful of coriander. And if you planted those seeds, you'd get cilantro. That would come up, fresh coriander. Then I want to take just a half inch of cinnamon, and then a quarter of a teaspoonful of cumin seed. And cumin seed is what really makes the taste of curry so special. And then these you won't be able to get in whole form. You'll have to get them powdered. This is turmeric, which gives you the yellow color. And that's a half teaspoonful. And then there's ginger, which is also a half teaspoonful, powdered ginger. All right, so put the powdered stuff into that. Break off the little bit of... You know, if you're following these dishes, you should be strong enough to break off a piece of cinnamon stick. That's if it's small. Okay, shove the seeds into the top and then whiz it. The whizzing process, I prefer to use one of the little, you know, coffee mill things and keep it for that purpose than using one of the larger ones. One of the larger ones throws the seeds out too far to get them really ground up into a powdery foam. And it also spoils the look of your machine. All right, so when it's done, you can just upend it like so, and we'll use that. Let gorgeous smell. And by the way, you can get a piece of bread and throw that into the top, put the lid on, give it a whiz round, and that takes most of the aromas out of it so that you can experiment with something of your own, you know, later on. Okay, good. Over here, I've got a chicken thigh, and it's a bit lonely, but it did have four chicken thighs at the beginning, but I just wanted to show you one and show you how it works. I actually take chicken thighs and remove all the fat from the outside and the skin from the top. Just go over it with a fine tooth comb, take it all away, and when you've done that, put it to simmer in about 6 cups of chicken stock. By the time you've finished, you'll get down to about 5 cups, which is what I want for this dish. So that's what that is. It's reinforced the flavor of chicken stock with the other chicken, and it's cooked this. And it takes about half an hour to be able to make it nice and tender. Okay, we'll get back to that in just a moment. Just 1 teaspoonful of that oil that I like to use, which, if you just join me, is a little low aromat of olive oil. And that's not the extra virgin stuff, but, you know, quite deodorized one. And then I put, for the actual aroma, just a little bit of toasted sesame oil in there, about 1/16 part. So this is a nice large onion, and I want to cut that into thin slices, but to do just one little cute thing with it at the end, because it's quite a large onion, that was. And so if I just pass a knife blade through it once, like so, then I've got pieces which will fit onto a spoon. And if you think of soups in that way, then what will fit onto the spoon nicely and elegantly, well, that's the way it should look. And that's the sort of the way that you cut garnish so that it can be eaten. So people are drooping out of the spoon. Okay, 2 large cloves of garlic. And this is, you know, about as simple as I think you can get. Bash it and then chop it. And then just squirt that around. It saves getting your hands in the onions and the garlic to any major extent, I found anyway. All right. Those are stirred around, so that's now releasing the volatile oils. And into that, at the same time that is happening, you put these, I mean, forgive me, but I am a real enthusiast of curry. Not overdoing it, so it grabs you by the throat, but just sprinkle it on 2, 3, 4 teaspoonfuls of a good curry powder. You won't find that in India, that they'll make their own curry powder up from all the spices that they regularly have. But just to help you, look for a Madras curry powder, if you can, and keep that, and at least start out that way. You can proceed later on if you want to. Okay, so that fries for a little bit, releases those oils, and then, and I would run that for about 15 minutes, frankly, and then pour the 5 cups of the chicken stock onto the top, and also chase that with half a cup of lentils. Now, those are raw, uncooked lentils. You don't have to rinse them first. You just put them in there. Well, you can rinse them if you like. And 1 bay leaf, and just poke that in the top. Looks like sort of shark's fin soup. And that is just allowed to simmer for 30 minutes. It comes up to the boil, simmer 30 minutes, and at the end of the time the 30 minutes is over, you just go looking for the bay leaf. Come out! Oh, well, if you can't find it, then Uncle Fred is bound to get the bay leaf, but it'll be there. And here, then, is what I wanted to show you with the chicken thigh. If you keep a little bowl of iced water by the side, you'll be able to get at those whilst they're still hot. And I like to get at this whilst it's still hot, and then pop it away in the fridge, usually, to be able to keep it, in this condition. Cool quickly, to make sure that you don't get in any sort of kind of woofy trouble with chicken. And that's actually pulled apart into its main muscle shapes, so it has a nice, succulent, meaty look to it. Okay, drop that into this one, which is the one which has been cooking for 30 minutes, which I was just trying to find that bay leaf, and stir that around just to heat the chicken through. And I made about half a cup of raw rice, and then cooked down to 1 cup of rice, and pop that into the top. All right. So now all of that is just heating through now as that final dish. Let me show you a really nifty idea here. You know, if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that I love to use strained yogurt. Yeah? And just put non-fat yogurt into a little strainer like this and put it over the top of a container. And then that makes it, after about 5 hours, it gives you this lovely, thick, fresh yogurt cheese, if you will. And this I'm going to add to about 1 teaspoon, just about 1 teaspoonful there, and a teaspoonful and a quarter of coconut essence. Now that is the essence of real coconut, which is added to this coconut, to this yogurt. And what you get is an alternative to the yogurt cream, which normally goes into this dish, which is so full of saturated fat. And yet, I didn't want to lose that magnificent flavor that you get from it. So, just stir that in carefully, and then get the lemon, get a piece of lemon, and just squeeze that lemon down tightly. Give about a tablespoonful of lemon juice to the dish. There we go. All over the top. Marvelous, that flavor of lemon. Perhaps just a little twist of salt at the last moment. And just keep stirring in. Now, you see, as you stir, you get that, oh, golly. Oh, it's so good. The smell is just fabulous. Now, and it hasn't even got the perfume of the plate on it yet. So take a good dollop of this. Look at it go. And then put a scoop of the cream on the top. And where is it? Here it is, the subject of all our effort. A little bit of that pop on the top. Just scrape it on the top like that all over, and it gives that dense, lovely yellow color to the top of the dish. And boom, just wonderful. Never take the plate to the table with stuff all over the outside. Come through and I'll show you how it works. There. Good. All right, so there's ours with a powdery sort of mix on the top. Lots and lots of flavor coming out of it. And there is the classic. You see how the grease has actually risen to the surface? That's because it should look like that in the classic, because that says it's rich and full of that wonderful flavor that fat brings. Well, we actually go up a few calories here to 323 because of all the extra rice that I've put into that. But look at the fat. We go down to 7 from 16 and down to 2 in terms of saturated fat, which came from the chicken pieces. But this was largely from the coconut. Then that means that I get the whole dish at 19% instead of 53% for the classic, and only 39 of cholesterol from the chicken, 281 from sodium right down, and right up, there is the fiber, which goes right up. And that's the reason, of course, why you can get the numbers go up at the top, but that the actual amount of fat in percentage goes down. Okay. You know, the fellow who wrote about this dish, first of all, in 1815, said the most wonderful thing. He said he wanted to make the cage of marriage more comfortable. In fact, as comfortable as the net of courtship was charming. Isn't that a lovely thought? Oh, he did it too. Oh, this is so nice. It's sort of round and this marvelous aroma that comes off it. Try this. It's a wonderful dish when the rain is drizzling down the window pane. Thanks for being with me so much. God bless you. Look forward to next time. Bye.